I'm Chris Stafford, and this is AART, a podcast that shares the stories of female artists and their journey in the world of art. This is Season 1, Episode 2.
If you don't feel it, I'll make you feel it. I'll show you what I mean. If you don't feel it, I'll make you feel it. I'll bring you to your knees. If you follow me. If you follow me.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. AART is available wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can join in the conversation by following the AART, that's the AART Podcast, on Instagram. As an amateur landscape painter, this show combines my background and interests with the opportunity to share the stories of female artists from across the country and around the world. We'll dig deep into their background, how they got started, their inspiration and aspirations, mediums and muses. The purpose is to shine the spotlight on women who have historically been kept hidden behind the easel. We'll explore the female gaze and how it translates to art. And now to my guest, Debbie Mueller, a self-professed late bloomer who is also making art her second career. When she's not painting, Debbie is an OBGYN physician and surgeon who considers herself an accidental artist. As a New Englander, Debbie went to medical school in Connecticut and later settled in New Hampshire with her husband and children. Her mother was a hobby painter, and she grew up with musical influences, which extended to an interest in dancing. But aside from regular creative outlets as a child, she had no aspirations to paint. It was a rainy day on a family vacation that was to change her outlook when her mother encouraged her to spend some time painting. It was the feeling that it gave her that proved her motive and inspiration to continue. Debbie has since spent time studying with a number of artists, including Peggy Kroll-Roberts, Anne Blair Brown, Sarah Sedgwick, and Julie Davis. She began exhibiting in 2016 and has since shown her work extensively in New England and beyond. Debbie has won numerous awards from art guilds to Best in Show and plein air festivals. She's a member of Oil Painters of America, American Women Artists, American Impressionist Society, and National Oil and Acrylic Painter Society. This year, Debbie has a full schedule of traveling for workshops, exhibitions, and plein air tours. Debbie, welcome to the program. It's a joy to have you, and I'm so glad I discovered you on Instagram. What a wonderful resource that is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Chris.
Well, I'm sure you found lots of female artists too when you've been on Instagram, and probably found some new inspiration as well.
Oh, all the time. I mean, I think the art world is still skewed towards men, especially sort of at the upper levels in terms of artists that are getting recognition. But increasingly, I think women are making strides. And there are definitely some women that I've encountered on Instagram and then met in real life that have been absolutely inspirational to me.
I want to talk about your inspirations and your aspirations, Debbie, and the fact that you classify yourself as a late bloomer when you're in very good company there. I think Matisse and Gauguin and Grandma Moses, they were all considered late bloomers, weren't they?
Sure. Yeah. I think when you talk to a lot of, there are a lot of artists who sort of come into their own at this stage in life. But a lot of them will tell you that they had always wanted to paint, but it had to take a backseat to career or to family, but that they had done it when they were younger. But that's not my story. My story was quite the opposite, that I really identified as being sort of artistically impaired. I just did not think I had any artistic ability at all. My parents both enjoyed the arts. My mom was a hobby painter, and my dad has always enjoyed crafts, and it was very clear to me that I was in my dad's footsteps, that I had his genes, and that I couldn't do anything with a pencil, paintbrush, etc. And so I didn't do anything like that for my entire adult life. I did pursue some hobbies. I enjoyed pottery, and I played with mosaics and did some photography, which in retrospect, all prepared me for an appreciation or understanding of color, of composition, design. So, those things ended up all being helpful and useful. But I didn't think, I had no interest in painting. I had no ability. And do you want the story of the day that changed?
Well, I do, but I want to go even further back to when you were at school, Debbie, because you mentioned those other hobbies, artistic, creative type hobbies that you had. But as a child, how would you have described yourself in school? What kind of, were you academic? Did you lean towards the arts at all?
I was a smart kid. And so, I always felt like it was, expected that I would do, very well in school. And I'm bright, and I did very well in school. I was quite involved with music. I played the violin and I sang, and I was involved in theater in high school. And so that was really more how I expressed my creativity and passions, at that point. When I got to college, I started dancing. So again, a completely different art form. Again, having never really had the opportunity to pursue it, yet having always sort of wanted to. I took some dance classes in college and started doing ballet and jazz dance and things like that. And absolutely loved it. Didn't look at it as a possible career, but it was I was pre-med, and it was a great release from the challenges of a really intense academic life. And then I went to medical school, and during medical school, I continued to dance. So that was my outlet there. I was in the Hartford area, and there was a really wonderful contra dancing scene. So I did contra dancing, and then I picked up clog dancing and joined a performance group that we performed at festivals and all kinds of places in the Hartford area. And so I did some dancing. So that was kind of my creative outlet at that point in my life.
You mentioned that your mother was a hobby painter. Did she encourage you as a child? Did she get you books and crayons and things? And did she encourage you? Did she want you to take up art in some form? Was that ever?
Oh, we always had books and crayons and things like that. And we would do some art projects from time to time. But it was, doing that and then practicing violin or going to museums or concerts so we did a lot of things in the arts. And my family was very much focused around the arts. My dad also has done some acting. And so, that was always sort of a part of our life in a broad way. But art was never sort of pushed on me in any way. It wasn't like I rejected it or anything. It was just, it didn't really engage me as much as some of the other things did at that point.
But I know in your statement, you said that you didn't consider you had any artistic ability, and you stumbled upon art and that turning point in your life by accident. And why didn't you consider that then, given that you had some creative instincts and you enjoyed that some expression?
I would never have denied that I had some creative passions and interests, but the notion of creating representational art, of doing something that looked like the thing I was trying to produce, like that, I just didn't think that I had the ability to make a painting or a drawing and have it look like anything. So I had only I can remember once. Oh my goodness, it was back when I was OBGYN resident. I remember buying some sketching materials and going out and sketching for a day or two. And then I just stopped. It just I don't know. I don't think I was very good. It didn't really hold my interest that much at that point. I never went in that direction. And certainly, I think the thing is that I thought that the ability to draw was something that was innate. I thought that there are people that just know how to do this. And it's really just a skill like you would learn any other skill, like to learn to play an instrument, to learn how to do surgery, to learn how to make a pot on the potter's wheel. Like it is all just a learned skill. And I do think there are some people that are better than others, maybe have some innate talent, but anybody can learn how to do it. So
when you were observing art then as a young person through school and then beyond, Debbie, what kind of art appealed to you if you were to go to a gallery?
Well, I don't know that I even went to galleries at that point. It really didn't appeal to me that much. I have collected some art over years. I bought some beautiful posters. My husband and I bought a kind of interesting semi-abstract painting on our honeymoon. And I would go to museums occasionally, but it just wasn't really a part of my life at that point.
And as you said, you were pre-med, you went on to go into the field of OBGYN, which you still practice. So
I do, yeah.
You're not a full-time artist by any means, but I want to go back to that day, that rainy day with your mother back in 2016, I believe it was, which really changed the course of your life.
Absolutely, it did. We were visiting my parents. They were spending winters in Sarasota, and it was a tense kind of week anyway. We were all in a tight space. The water heater was pretty small, and so my oldest daughter would routinely use up all the hot water before my dad had the chance to shower. And so there was one day where it was just rainy. Nobody had any sense of what to do. We were bored. We were grumpy. And my mother turned to me and she said, "Do you want to paint?" And I thought, no, why would I want to do that? It really didn't appeal to me, but I honestly had nothing better to do. And so I somewhat reluctantly agreed. I had taken some photos the day before at a restaurant. So there was an image of a dock, and the water was reflecting the clouds in the sky. And there was a bird, a pelican or something at the end of the dock. And so she had some acrylic paint with her, and pulled that out, set me up with some palette paper, and for about an hour I made a painting, which, to be honest, was pretty awful. When I look at it now, it was not this like lightning bolt, oh my gosh, I'm a great artist. It was a pretty terrible painting. But at the end of the hour, I recognized how good it felt to be doing it. Like I just loved the way that I felt while I was creating that piece of art. And so the next day I somewhat sheepishly said, "Do you think we could do another painting?" And so we did. And then when I got home, I thought, I think I'd like to do this some more. And so I went to the local art store. I knew nothing about it. So I bought this giant 48 color acrylic paint set because I had no clue that you could mix colors. I thought, well, I want to be able to paint in different colors, so I have to buy 48 tubes of paint, which is, of course, ridiculous. But that was what set me off. And within a few months, I was just not only hooked that I enjoyed it, but committed to learning and growing and improving and becoming the best artist I could.
What medium did you use for that first one?
So initially it was acrylic, and that's because that's what she had. That's what the local art store had. Within the first year, I switched over to oils. I still do every once in a while. If I need something to dry immediately, I do an acrylic painting. But for the most part, it's all oils. I first of all, I noticed that when you went to art shows and galleries, which I then started to do once I started painting, that it was unusual to see acrylic work, and the majority of artists creating the type of art that I like were working in oil. And then I recognized also just the quick drying nature of acrylics was very frustrating to me. Plus, it dries darker. So I don't know if you knew that. Like when you put down a piece of paint on top of something else, if you're trying to match it, it dries darker than what you put down. So that was frustrating to me as well. So probably 6 months after I started painting, I switched over to oils.
Did you keep that first painting?
Oh, absolutely. It is framed. It is in my house. I love showing it to people. And it's a great reminder of where I've been.
Can you recall the feeling you had that with that very first sitting then, Debbie? How it obviously made you feel something that it hooked you. What do you think it was? It's that flow state. It's that sense of losing time, deeply focused and concentrating. So it's not that you're like totally relaxed. You're deeply focused, but only on that. And the rest of the world just goes away. And the only other thing, to be honest, that I'm not a runner, so I've never had like that runner's high feeling. And when I've done yoga, I don't get that feeling either. But when I do surgery, I get that feeling. So it definitely has that comparison where there was one time, in fact, where I was sitting at the kitchen table doing a painting, and my husband had to bring one of our children someplace that was about almost an hour away. And he called me and he said, "We're on our way back." And I thought it had only been 10 minutes, and it had been almost an hour. And the time just went. So that's a wonderful feeling. And especially, I'll say, during the pandemic and during other times of stress, it's very nice to let your mind leave the things that it's been worried about on a day-to-day basis and just fully engage in a painting. I'm going to ask you more about that feeling that you compare it to surgery as a physician, a surgeon, Debbie, because that's really interesting. Both obviously involve very detailed handwork, but the mindset is unique, isn't it?
Well, I mean, they're different from each other. You know, the concerns when I'm doing surgery are, obviously much higher stakes. And, I've been practicing for long enough that, that I have some confidence and skills, but there's still always that anxiety. In a way, being a surgeon has made me, in a way, a much more fearless artist. Like, I'll hear interviews with people who are so overwrought about a painting that's not working. And I'm sort of like, it's just a painting. If it doesn't work, no one dies, no one gets sick, no one's hurt. It's just a painting. I can paint over it. I can throw it away. No big deal. So it definitely puts things in perspective. But there's this sense of focusing on what's important, having this sort of mental chatter going on in your head, taking into account like all the things you need to be thinking of. And that's a lovely feeling. I enjoy that.
So you go into a place in your head, I think that artists will all say that it just shuts off the rest of the world, whether you're, in the operating theater or you're in your studio. It is a zone that you go into. Do you resent intrusion then when you're in that place?
Yeah, a little bit. I do. I really my family sort of knows, if they need to ask me something, it's not the worst thing in the world if I'm interrupted, but it would be very hard for me to have a conversation with someone while I paint. I've done some plein air painting events. And of course, so much of your job as a plein air painter in those events is to interact with the public and to help them understand a little bit more about plein air painting and what you're doing. And so I will do that, but it's really hard for me to keep working. And, and there's been a few times where people have stayed for quite a while. And I finally said to them, I'm really going to have to end our conversation because I can't focus when I'm talking. I can't paint. So I always feel bad about that, but I don't mind if they watch. But yeah, it's hard for me to do that. I think maybe when I've been painting for longer, I'll be able to do that more, but not yet.
So when you began this journey then, Debbie, did you feel the need to get, quote unquote, educated, to go off to art classes and to study it? Or did you feel that you could plow your own furrow, so to speak?
Well, when I started, I just started on my own. Like, thank goodness for YouTube. I mean, I watched a lot of demos and watched, just tried to get some instruction that way. But it became clear probably within the first month or two that I really needed to get somebody to teach me some basics. And so I started taking classes. Yeah.
And who were you looking to for inspiration? I mean, there are a number of artists that you considered teachers that that you enjoyed working with. But aside from those teachers, were there any great artists that you were? I think we all favor, have some favorites. Is there anyone out there that you thought, this is the style I want to aim for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to answer it in two ways. The first person that was not only an inspiration, but sort of helped me kind of visualize the roadmap in a way was a woman who was my next door neighbor at the time, who is also a painter. Her name is Christy Hegarty. And so I could talk with her and say, where are you studying? Who are you studying with? What are you doing? What's this about workshops? Like, I didn't know anything about that world. And so, knowing her and watching how she navigated was very, very helpful to me. But yes, in terms of seeing people's style, I would say that the artist who's living today, who most inspired me sort of in those early years, was Timothy Horn. He's a California painter and paints primarily landscape, but some still life, but mostly landscape. And his paintings are very, very much all about the light, about a sense of light. And I recognized early on that I wanted to have a strong sense of illumination in my paintings. And the other thing about his style is that he's not a super tight painter. He's not like hyper realistic. I mean, it's realism. He's not an abstract artist, but his paintings have a looseness to them that I also appreciate. And so he was probably the person who most inspired me. And then I was lucky enough to be able to study with him.
And you went on to study with others too. How about today, though, Debbie? How much time do you spend, in front of your or behind your own easel, as opposed to taking workshops and classes and so on?
Yeah. So, I've become in the beginning, it was just sort of like learn to paint, so almost any workshop seemed like it had something to offer. Now I'm at the point where I'm looking for something specific. And so I do some workshops. I did one recently, Julie Davis, learning how to paint trees. I've always felt like I wasn't so good at that. And so that was sort of like a specific area that I wanted to study. And again, thanks to COVID, the abundance of Zoom workshops, which happen to be a great way to learn to paint, has really made these so much more available. In the past, you had to travel and take time off and stay over. And so I have been doing that. I've also been doing a mentorship program with a still life artist named Sarah Sedgwick for the last several months. And so that's also remote, but we get together 3 times a month for some group sessions with the other mentees and then one private session. She's someone whose work, again, sense of illumination, loose brushwork, and my passion for still life has really been ignited in the last year or so. And so I'm really making that a focus by studying with her.
And what was the turning point from landscape to still life then?
I haven't stopped doing landscape. I'm still doing that as well. But when I first started painting, I actually made some pretty disparaging comments about still life painting. What always came to mind were these like dark, dingy, like grapes and wine bottles and, just sort of old world. And that just didn't excite me at all. And then I saw some of Tim's still life work where there was that same sense of illumination and strong light and beautiful color. And I thought, oh, maybe this is worth doing. But what really ignited it was 5 years ago now, I participated in something called the Strata Easel Challenge. The Strata Easel Company sponsors a social media challenge twice a year in September and January, where artists are challenged to create art from life, either drawing or painting, but not from photos, not from imagination. So it has to be from life every day for a month. And so I've done it in January, and I live in New Hampshire. So plein air painting in January was not going to happen. So I was like, well, I guess I should do some still life. And so that was really what got me started. I did it the first year and saw my skills improve over the course of that month, and just really enjoyed being able to manipulate the scene, because the still life is what I made it. I really appreciated the fact that as opposed to plein air painting, when the sun goes in and the wind comes up and it's cold or it's hot, or, that I could do this in the comfort of my own house with consistent lighting. And so that's what really kind of started me off. And I've done that challenge every year now since.
And you've also mentioned that you're inspired by Mohegan Island off the coast of Maine. Why is that?
It is such a special place. So that was where I participated in my first workshop. So I told you my neighbor was going to workshops, and there's a local artist who lives near me and owns a gallery named Todd Benita, and he's a wonderful teacher. And he was doing a plein air painting workshop on Mohegan. And so I went, and it was just an extraordinary experience. Mohegan is a tiny island. It's about 10 miles off the coast of Maine. And it's been an artist's destination for over 100 years. And what's remarkable is that it's largely unchanged in that time. Many of the houses are still there. The roads are unpaved. There's only a few roads. There's only a few cars. There's 40 year-round residents. And the scenery is just, spectacular. Steep cliffs on the ocean side, charming little village on the inland side. And my painting evolved. Like, just over the course of that week, I created some work that I just felt really good about. And you could just see like this just big surge in what I was able to do. So I've gone back almost every year since. I'll be back again this summer. And it's just an opportunity to sort of be in this place where my, art heroes have walked before, and continue to. I mean, so many wonderful artists still go out there to paint.
And what's special about the light? Being such a small island, I believe it's only about a mile long, isn't it? It's really tiny.
Yeah, it's tiny. I mean, I don't, like, people say, oh, the light is unique. I don't know if it's unique. Certainly if you go to communities that are like the Outer Cape is, I think, probably somewhat similar. But it's just, the air is clean. It's the ocean water, like that colors things a little bit. And it's just a very natural environment. The houses by and large are weathered shingles. And so it's not a super colorful place, if you're really true to the scene, your colors are usually pretty muted, but it's beautiful.
Now, you're quite accomplished, I have to say, for someone who's a late bloomer, Debbie. You've gone on, I think, even from the year you started having showings, exhibitions, and won awards. I mean, it's quite a CV you have there.
Oh, thanks.
Already, very impressive.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering now, at this point, where you clearly established yourself as an artist, what your aspirations are now.
It's a hard question. I want to get better. I mean, that's really my biggest aspiration, is just to continue to improve, to continue to make work that I can feel proud of. It would be lovely to win some more awards in my life, maybe on a larger scale. I've won some like regional awards. It would be lovely to get an award from, say, the Oil Painters of America show or something like that, and get that type of recognition. But if that doesn't happen, that's really okay. I'd like to gain maybe some additional gallery representation so that I can move some more paintings out of my house. My basement has too many paintings in it. And so it would be nice to be able to find some other venues to show my work. But I just want to, my goal is really just to keep creating. This is something I'll do till the end of my days. And so my goal is to improve with each month and be able to continue to create.
How often do you paint then now, if you have a choice, Debbie?
Yeah. So my current work as a physician is happening 3 days a week. I'm 0.875. So I do 2 long days on Mondays and Tuesdays, and I work an hour from home. So I don't get home sometimes until 7 o'clock or later. And so it's not very often that I'll paint on those days, because it's just, I'm a little wiped out by the end of the day. Then Fridays I work a regular day, but on Wednesdays and Thursdays and on Saturdays and Sundays, unless there's some obligation that takes me away from home, I'm painting those days or doing something else art related. Like I did some varnishing this morning. So
what would you consider to be success then? And how, as an artist?
I guess I don't want to say I feel like I'm there, because I just told you that I want to get better and better. But I will confess that there is something really amazing about somebody that you don't know being willing to spend their hard-earned money for something that you've created. That's a wonderful feeling. When someone buys something, or a family member says, "Oh, I'd love that," that's nice too. But you sometimes wonder, whether they really love it. But when a total stranger chooses your artwork to bring into their home, that's a wonderful feeling. And so that honestly feels like success. But really, I think in the bigger picture, again, it's just about continuing to grow and learn and improve throughout life. So I don't feel like there's like a finish line or a particular milestone that I need to reach to feel successful. I've already done some things that I'm proud of, and if I can just keep going, that's it. Then I'm successful.
Well, as a late bloomer, then you probably have some good advice for others who feel that they were never artistically talented in their younger life, but may be thinking, well, I'd like to have a go. Well, but don't have the confidence. I think confidence comes, doesn't it? But what advice would you give them?
It's that not to be so focused on the end result. If you think about anything, that we've talked about, and even for my painting, like your first work is not good. It's not about that. It's about expressing yourself, about that feeling of flow state, that feeling of creativity, that ability to learn something new. And so it's the journey and not the destination, So, I would say to them, make something and just, see how you enjoy the feeling of pushing paint around on a canvas or panel. And then skills can come. You can grow those skills. You can develop those skills. So it's really, they should not focus on their output in the beginning. They should just try to appreciate whether it's something that they enjoy doing.
Is it necessary, in your opinion, to study great artists or study art history, or to study contemporaries that you enjoy taking workshops with?
I mean, I will say that not knowing much about art history is a deficiency for me, but I don't think I try to learn, number one. I take some classes and whatever. So I've tried to learn. I don't think it's essential that you know art history to be an artist. I think that you asked about shortly after I started? Were there artists where I looked at their work and said, I want to do that? And that's what's important, is to see what's out there, and Instagram is wonderful for that, to be inspired by other people's work. And there are a lot of people whose work I absolutely admire and enjoy, but I know that I don't want to paint like they do. And so, to pay attention to what really resonates with you, in terms of your ultimate painting style.
And if you're in a gallery where you have some of your works hung, and maybe you're at the opening, what kind of things do you like to overhear if people don't know who you are? If you were to eavesdrop, what kind of things do you like to hear people say about your art? So that would tell me what you would like your legacy to be, what people would like to say, in the future.
That's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question. I think, one of the things that I, probably enjoy hearing is when someone will say, like, oh, look at the light in that. Look how illuminated that appears. And again, because that is my goal. But I think what is also really special is when people find something in a painting that evokes a sense of nostalgia or memory for them. So, I've painted, grapefruit, and someone will look at a painting and say, oh my gosh, my grandmother always used to give me grapefruit, so those are, and that could be true for anybody that paints grapefruit. I guess it's not specific to me, but that's what really feels special when a painting connects with somebody else, is to be able to reach that more emotional feeling for them.
It is about feeling, isn't it? It's
for sure.
How that painting makes you feel. Mm. So what next then, Debbie? What does 2023 look like for you?
Oh my gosh. So 2023 is going to be amazing. First of all, I'm doing a lot of traveling. I was fortunate enough to have one of my Strata easel still life paintings accepted into the Oil Painters of America National Exhibition. And so I'm going to Charleston, South Carolina at the end of this month to attend the convention and then the opening and the show. And so that should be just a lot of fun. I've never really been to Charleston other than the airport. And so I'm excited to explore what I know is a beautiful city. Then in May, I'm going to France for 2 weeks to a place called Chateau Orquevaux. Several years ago, I was granted an artist residency there, and then everything got put on hold with COVID. So this is finally going to happen. And I'm planning to use the time to do both plein air painting and some still life painting. I love the idea of painting the same location, the same scene at different times of day and different weather conditions, different light, and to see how it changes over that. So one of my plans is to do a small painting of the same spot each day and see how it changes. And then I'll explore some still life paintings there as well. And then I have a trip to Monhegan in the beginning of August. And then at the end of August, I'm really excited. I have a solo show at the Rockport Art Association in Rockport, Massachusetts. That's going to be the culmination of what has been several years of work. You talked about contemporary painters that have inspired me, but one of the dead guys, as they call them, who have inspired me tremendously is Edward Hopper. Really, shortly after I started painting, people began to make comparisons and say, oh, your work kind of has a Hopper vibe to it, or a Hopper-esque feel. And so I started a project because it dawned on me that I paint in the places that he painted. I mean, he was born in Nyack, New York. I was raised in Hastings-on-Hudson, which is just across the river. And he's painted in all the New England coastal areas that I paint. So I have a series of paintings that are either of the same subject, but from a different point of view, or sometimes the same place, but now it looks different, or maybe it is exactly the same place and what he was looking at, and I've done my own version of it. But I'll have about 20 paintings that are all directly referring to Hopper paintings that'll be on display at the museum for 3 weeks. So that's very exciting. And that's what 2023 looks like.
And I'm going to finish, Debbie, by underscoring the fact that you regarded yourself as an accidental artist, but there is nothing accidental about your art now.
No, not at all. It's, honestly, I'm serious about it. I mean, well, I guess I am, but I mean, it's joyful. It's not a ponderous, heavy thing at all. It's completely joyful, but it is my life's passion. And it's so extraordinary to me to think that it almost didn't happen.
And would you like to say it defines you now?
Oh, yeah. I think it does. I think it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lots of things, you know, I'm a wife and mother, I'm a doctor, but yeah, I'm an artist. You know what it is? When you become an artist, you see the world through artists' eyes every minute of the day. You look at the sky, you look at the light, you look at things through that lens, and it makes the world more beautiful and it gives you an appreciation. So yeah, even when I'm not being an artist, I'm looking through those eyes and experiencing that identity.
Debbie, finally, would you please share your contact information where people can find your work online and on social media?
Oh, sure. So my website is debbiemuellerart.com, and it's Mueller. My Instagram is at The Late Bloomer Artist, and on Facebook it's Debbie Mueller Art. I think The Late Bloomer Artist. I think I have both of those in there. So if you look for either one, you'll find me.
Debbie, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, and I wish you the very best of luck for the future. I hope you continue to enjoy your art for many, many years to come.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, and I wish you lots of luck with the podcast. I'm sure it'll be a great success, and I'm looking forward to hearing your interviews with other female artists.
Thank you again to my guest, Debbie Mueller, and to you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share on social media and on your podcast app. And if you have a moment to leave us a review on your podcast app, it does help others to find us. You can also leave your comments, questions, and suggestions for us at the AART Podcast. That's the AART Podcast on Instagram. So please join us in the conversation by following us there. Until the next time, thank you for listening.
If you